What's good, YouTube? What's going on? And what's happening? Well, it's your boy Hannah, and I'm back again with another video. On today's video, there's going to be something simple, something basic, and yeah, something that always happens and always occurs in the markets. It's not new, it's not wow, and it's not something to stay up on, but it's just something that you can learn something on or make money from. So I want to explain or break down why we had an impulsive move to the downside yesterday concerning most pairs, including currency pairs, um, crypto, indices mostly, and tech stocks in some way. So yeah, this is the NAS. So looking at the overall structure of the NAS, we all knew that we was looking for something like this. So we had this level being a potential neckline, or this one. You can call it your supply. Some call it supply, some call it break of support, some call it neckline for the head and shoulders, and some call it a retracement or a break and retest for continuation to the downside. So on this instance, I call them, it's everything also to me. It's everything. Break and retest, support which was broke, neckline of an head and shoulders, and all stuff like that. But because I focused more on a pattern, unlike anything else, I simply put this on my mind that I'm looking for something like that. So now I did break on my review that obviously we're looking for price to either what break the lows or for price to go retest the zones for continuation to the downside. So on the daily time frame, you can tell what kind of a candlestick we had yesterday. Probably like it was a 867 move to the downside on the daily time frame. So obviously with such candlesticks, you all know that like we might expect a pullback or something like that for continuation to the downside. But it's not something that occurs always. But at the same time, we had CPI. So what basically moved the markets was CPI. Nothing else did this. But obviously, technically, 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 we had an anticipation that like price simply has to pull back somewhere around those levels before we can have an impulsive move to the downside. So obviously, this is an anticipation. So obviously, we had a bullish channel, but this was not beautiful because when if you check out was this was just a simple lower low, lower highs, price moving in lower lows and lower highs. You understand? Until price clearly shot to the upside. So obviously, with this bullish move, I did like 100%. I'm not lying or whatever that you think I might be saying. I did know that like price will have to pull back to somewhere around those levels before we can have a continuation to the downside. So yeah, I can explain those candlesticks and I can explain what happened. But all I can say it's price took the highs out. You understand? We had this highs, which price took them out and impossibly shot to the downside. So looking at the 1H, this is just simple. Not to say it's simple, but yeah, it's something that you can learn from. So now on this one, I can simply break down on sessions. So looking at the London session, we had a bullish move and an exhaustion. We had a push phase and an exhaustion and a push. So what we was expecting, it was obviously for price to clearly start shooting to the downside or showing signs of weakness on that very same level before we can start taking our shorts or sells to the downside. But unfortunately, we couldn't take those sales. But obviously now price with that said, I did simply know that like we'll have an impulsive move to the downside. So now looking at what currently happened now with an impulsive candle to the downside, this was basically like pre-London, pre-New York. On pre-New York, price chose to drop impulsively with about 500 points, which was like 500 pips, 500 pips, 500 points, which was like 3.93%, which was basically like 4% on pre and then on pre-New York alone. So during the New York session until the session close, session we had another 426. So in total, price at like 1,000 points, 1,000 points drop to the downside. You understand? So with that said, obviously we all know that like we can expect the continuation to the downside depending on what prices to do. But like looking at current price, we can tell that like price is bringing out some sort of a support, and now price was in a intraday correction, short to the upside, not too much, but price chose to short to the upside during the London session. Now we're having some sort of pre-New York, obviously pre-New York. I'm expecting now for price to at least have a pullback in and around some of those levels before we can continue to the upside. And I mean entries basically. So yeah, breaking down the NAS, it's simple. Price broke a previous support, a previous price broke a previous support zone, a previous low, the previous break of lows, you can say, or price broke a neckline, which obviously had to wait for a retest before we can confirm our head and shoulders. So that was it on the Nasdaq. That's how Nasdaq chose to move yesterday, and that's why it had this impulsive move to the downside. So yeah, that's it. So looking at gold now, we did know that like on gold we're having some sort of a resistance, or yeah, I would say some sort of a resistance. No need for the 4H. Okay, let me start off on the 4H. We're having some sort of resistance right there. Prices failing to break that zone or continue to the upside. And it's also failing to what break those lows to continue to the downside. So obviously looking at this now, I can say now price broke out, but short again in the inside, shows continued to the upside, but failed, took the highs out and really to the downside. So now on gold, what I can say this was just basically waiting for price to either do what? To either break the highs, that's high, that's intraday high, boom. Either wait for what? For break of this high, for continuation, or for price to reverse off of that level for continuation to the downside. But now price printed a high, printed a higher low, printed a high again. This high wasn't higher than the previous high. That's why some of the other reasons why price chose to short to the downside. But either way, it is what it is. Looking at current price, gold is having some sort of a falling wedge. What we can expect now from gold on the current price, not to be sharing some sort of financial advice, but what I'm looking at or what I'm looking to trade, that's once price breaks those highs and confirms or gives me that bullish momentum, I can simply wait for some sort of a retest for continuation to the upside because fundamentally, um, when CPI tends to be negative, gold shoots to the upside. But on this instance, price shot to the downside. So I can tell that like price might be trying to have some sort of effect or reasons why it needs to shoot impulsively to the upside. So German 30. So German 30, what I can say, it's price was really having a bullish move to the upside. Before me, price was moving in highs and price was breaking the highs, what I can say. But on this one, on this zone, that's where I was focusing on, or that's where I had all my focus or all my attention on. What I basically saw, it's now price was in a correction from a previous push on Monday. Price was now moving sideways, broke out and impulsively shot to the downside. So now let me not lie. What I was simply waiting for is for continuation to the upside. Obviously, when price now it's what it's in a push, correction, breakout, retest, continue to the upside. But now this was just something like this. Boom, you feel me? So now price basically took the highs out on this level and this candle impulsively to the downside, taking the lows. So now on this instance, what I just saw was like now price obviously shot to the downside. I couldn't basically understand reasons for price to impulsively sell in that instance, but obviously because now it's also an index, it also moves due to the German 30, due to US 30 NAS and other indices. That's some of the reasons why price chose to shoot to the downside. Looking at US 30 was also what we was expecting. But now what I was waiting for is for price to react on the zone before me. I was waiting for CPI to reverse from that zone, but now price chose to move further to the upside, having a simple pin bar, you would say, and price also took the highs out on intraday time frames and shot to the downside. So this was a zone which I knew could have took my sells from. But now what I focused on was this lows. I was only looking to sell from those lows before from this ones. The zone, break off those lows for continuation to the downside. You form. So I still see a further move to the downside, but I'm simply waiting for what for price to break the lows before I can start looking for a continuation to the downside. That's it on US 30, and that's why the reasons are, oh, those are some of the reasons why we had that impulsive move to the downside. So USD CAD, I also can't say much, but price was holding some sort of resistance on the zone, and price moved, broke back in our resistance which we had, our previous resistance which we now turned to our support, and now price shot to the upside. So what I'm simply waiting for is for price to either continue to the upside with a break of the highs, boom, continue to the upside, fail to break with this some sort of bullish momentum. This is some sort of bullish depletion. Prices like losing that momentum to continue to the upside. But what I'm waiting for is for bearish momentum for continuation to the downside on the USD CAD. Tesla also can't say much, but Tesla was holding the highs and couldn't hold the highs for long and had fundamentals which chose to push price to the downside. So Bitcoin is what I can say from the 4H. Obviously, Bitcoin, we had a bullish move to the upside, price having a sort of wedge, a rising wedge. So now I did call out the longs or the buys from this very same zone, couldn't take them. And I saw this move, which now price was having when Bitcoin was buying, was still pushing to the upside. I saw that this is some sort of depletion. Price is losing momentum and it's not continuing the way it should, with price moving with higher highs and higher lows. Before the price was now moving in some sort of level. So now what I obviously was waiting for from the 1H, because we found a pattern from the 4H. What I waited for from the 1H, it was simply something like this: break off the lows for an impulsive continuation move to the downside. You understand? So yeah, this was it. But unfortunately, I couldn't take the move. I couldn't take most moves to the downside. I didn't trade. I did trade. I took shorts early yesterday on the NAS. Price took me out, and I was like, you know what? Because we're having CPI, let me just step away from the charts, and that was it. So now looking at current price on Bitcoin, because now I waited for what? For price to simply break this support which we had, because I had this sort of support. I simply waited for price to simply break for positive continuation move to the downside. So looking at current price, we're obviously having a bear flag. Obviously, with a bear flag, you simply do what? Wait for price to break the lows for a continuation move to the downside. That will be it for continuation move to the downside on Bitcoin. So the reason Bitcoin had a bear move to the downside, it was price was having a rising wedge on the 4H, which we simply had to wait for what? For intraday key levels, which price kind of broke for positive continuation move, or for further confirmation that we're having a positive move to the downside, or our signal is 100%. So Ethereum, I can't say much on Ethereum because now price was moving the way it wanted to move, but we was holding our resistance level, which we was holding. So looking at current price now, because price is now on our flag, on our brick wall. What I'm simply waiting for is for price to move or to close below the lows. For me, below those lows for continuation move to the upside. But at the same time, I'm hearing some sort of an intraday reversal, which I'm thinking of some sort of what you call this, head and shoulders inverse or sideways or an opposite head and shoulders. So what I'm simply waiting for, if price will positively confirm what I'm looking for, that's for price now to break the lows, to break the highs for continuation to the upside, which is basically a pullback from an impulsive move to the downside yesterday. Bitcoin, what I would say from the daily time frame, what did I do now? What did I do now? What did I do now? What I can say on Ethereum, on Litecoin, because you always know I think a lot to lead. Price took the highs out, boom, from the daily time frame. So what you have, or what you simply have to look forward for continuation, move to the downside. Fuck what you're saying, fuck what you think, fuck what you're gonna be on from the daily time frame. So if I'm looking for continuation moves to the downside on the daily time frame, I need to focus on what intraday key levels and intraday zones to focus on my current move or for confirmation to the upside or to the downside. But I did confirm and call out the zones that Bitcoin was simply waiting for price to trade on the zone for a move to the downside, to trade on the zone for a move to the upside, to trade on the zone for a move to the upside. So break of this, I was looking for continuation to the upside. Break here, continuation to the downside. So now Bitcoin, what happened yesterday? We had an impulsive candle breaking the highs, impulsing all of the highs which it had on this low, on this key level, on the zone, this zone, this level I'm focusing on. So now price took the zone now, boom, and and had a bear candle continuation to the downside. So obviously I'm a breakout trader. I was waiting for continuation to the upside with a simple break and retest for continuation, move to the upside. So what we had, it was price now, boom, breaking in again. So what I'm simply looking for now, because now price at this big momentum candle to the downside and another continuation candle breaking the zone, the support zone, this intraday support which I had. What I'm simply waiting for now on current market price for price to pull back right there for continuation to the downside. But on the hourly time frame, because this was a support, price was holding, I can tell. But now looking at current price is showing some sort of something like this on my perspective before me. So this will be a trap if now price breaks out and retests and continues on this zone for continuation move to the downside. It will trap many bullish traders with a confirmation of a what, a falling wedge for continuation to the upside perform. So that coin, the reason it sold, it was price took the highs out and continued. Price broke a resistant level from the daily time frame and closed inside the very same zone, which it was a breakout and a break back in. Obviously, if you know that like price breaks out and break backs in, you simply have a what, a high possibility price will continue moving to the downside. So last but not least, we have an oil, one of my best, 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 best pairs. Simple as ABC. Now, oil was holding the zone for a very long time, the support zone, and chose to broke back in. Now, what I waited for yesterday from the 4H, I love oil. I know I blurred my screen, I blurred my brightness, but I love oil. Y'all can see my face, and I want it like that. But I love oil so much, and I'm smiling. Can you see my teeth? You know, so now oil, we had some sort of a bullish move, some sort of a bullish channel, and price is now in a correction on this zone. So now price had this impulsive move to the downside, reacting on our support, pushing to the upside, breaking, breaking in, breaking out again, now having this break back in and retest above, pushing to the upside, spiking this zone during the fundamentals, and now price is continuing to the upside. So what I'm waiting for from the 1H, oil didn't move, oil didn't move concerning the CPI, to be honest. Oil didn't move. Oil didn't move. oil didn't have an impulsive candle. So what I'm simply waiting for in oil is because now oil, we're still holding this zone. I'm simply waiting for a break of the highs for continuation to the upside for 5% move to the upside, either today, tomorrow, anytime. But I'm positively looking for a continuation move to the upside because now I'm looking for, or I had something like this, which I had in my perspective today in the morning, which is like a positive, which is like a potential flag before me from price moving with higher highs and higher lows and correcting. I'm positive and looking for something which will have a continuation move to the upside when price breaks the highs. So oil didn't move or didn't have some sort of a move, an impulsive move to the downside concerning the CPI. But Nasdaq, the reason it moved once again, quick recap, price had some sort of a level which it broke to the downside. Price had to in some way pull back or retest that zone before it can continue to the downside. So it's not fundamentals. Fundamentals confirmed a positive move to the downside, like a positive move that like we are positively moving to the downside. But technically we have already spotted or have already anticipated the things or the zones which we saw or which was looking for price to pull back on for continuation move to the downside. So gold, I was looking for price to continue moving to the upside with price breaking the highs, continuing to the upside, but price was holding the resistance level and chose to move to the downside. So that's it technically. Um, German 30 price was in a correction and chose to broke to the downside. Can't say much. US 30 was also having a level which was looking for price to pull back on, but it broke that level and broke back in at that very same level and impulsively shot to the downside. USD CAD price broke out of the support, broke out of the resistance, broke back in and impulsively broke to the upside. So USD CAD, it was some sort of what USD CAD. So this was having strength, weakness. This gains power, this loses momentum. So those were the reasons why I made an impulsive move to the upside. Don't be ashamed or don't be acting up or brand new that like price moved to the downside, price did that, price did that. This was normal. Price does do that because it now we had fundamentals, strong fundamentals. It was confirmed that USD CAD will continue moving to the upside because it's positive. So CPI, they were expecting an 8.1, but price had a what, 8.3. It's positive and like it's positive, it's green in fundamentals because it's higher than expected, but it's affecting the inflation market or the markets with high inflation numbers and the rise of inflation. So Bitcoin price was having a falling wedge, price was having a rising wedge from the 4H, and price broke to the downside. And it was making, we waited for, okay, the 4H had the rising wedge. The 1H waited for price to break the support and break the zone to confirm a continuation to the downside. And that was it before me. So Ethereum price was holding the resistance level and price broke to the downside. Bitcoin price took the highs out and broke back in and continued moving to the downside. Oil can't say much. Price was holding the support zone. Price spiked the intraday support zone and continued to the upside. So yes, sir. That's it. That's it. Can't say much. I'm sorry on the noises that you hear. It's little bro playing, little bro enjoying himself. So that's all I got in this video. Can't say much, can't do much. That's all I got. Whoever took the analysis, whoever saw something, I appreciate you. And I'm grateful for everything. And I love you so much. So that's all I got on this video. And love. I'm out.